Hi, I want to do a little video here about some of my opinions about certain things. And one of the things is that there's been a lot of talk on the internet lately about the state of Guitar Center. And my opinion about Guitar Center is it's kind of neutral. I think, I mean, over the years, I've bought a lot of stuff from them, and a lot of guitars, a lot of effects, and I've actually sold quite a bit of stuff to them too. But the thing about Guitar Center is that back in the day, right, and a lot of you millennials probably, it's kind of hard for you guys to think about it, but years and years ago, we didn't really have the internet. The internet didn't really come into prominence until I was in my late teens and early 20s. I didn't really start, surfing the net, if you will. I know it's kind of an old school term, but I didn't really start surfing the net till probably the late 90s, early 2000s. And a long time ago, your mom and pop stores basically had a very strict select clientele, and usually consisted of like local bands. If you went down to like the Valley of Texas, you had like a lot of Tejano bands and country bands and some blues artists. You went around Austin, it was like that, a lot of blues guys and stuff like that. But Guitar Center was more for kind of the novice player, and they in all intents and purposes they kind of marketed towards the kind of the amateur player and the kids, like myself, that are just learning how to learning their craft or whatever. And I think with the advent of the internet, especially with what I'm on right now, YouTube, Guitar Center is having a struggle because they don't really control things like they used to. Because like I said, before the internet, before YouTube and all that, and again, I know it's hard for a lot of people to believe that such a world existed, but it did. Most of your information about guitars was either word of mouth, and that was usually a lot of your semi-professionals and professionals. A lot of it was word of mouth, and then you had your guitar magazines. Back in the day, you had like Guitar World, Guitar for the Practicing Musician, you had Total Guitar, you had Music Aficionado, Guitar Aficionado, blah, 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 Musician was another one. So you had your guitar magazines, and then you had Guitar Center. And both of those entities, if you will, they could control everything very tightly. And they could because I remember, back in the day, Guitar Center used to love to push products. And I remember one time I went in there looking at pickups because I was thinking about replacing pickups on my guitar, and the guy just, he was a guy not much older. I was probably, I don't know, 17, 18 years old. This guy was probably a couple years older than I was. Not by much, but he kept pushing EMG pickups, which I kept telling him, I was like, man, dude, I got nothing against EMG pickups, but I'm old school. I like passive pickups. I like the way they breathe and stuff. Which that's always been the way I view Guitar Center. It's like a clothing store, And to give you kind of a story, back when I was a kid, my dad really knew how to dress really well. He was the kind of person, he could go into like the Men's Warehouse, and he actually knew more than the salesman did, and he knew all the little tricks, like how to tie a tie correctly, and the correct length between the tie and the belt, and how to put a belt on correctly, and the appropriate pair of pants, and how to color coordinate and stuff like that. And that's the way I've always been with Guitar Center. I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for, and I don't need some kid trying to push something on me. And now, occasionally, not to be totally, like sound like Scott Grover or something like that, but occasionally, somebody will say something I think is a pretty good suggestion. Like I had a kid one time that recommended a wah to me that was actually a pretty good wah. Actually, I don't know it anymore, but it was pretty good. It was an old Buddha wah, which actually was pretty good. But that's one of the few rare occasions where the guy that worked there actually knew what he was talking about. But I had a kid one time tried to impress me with Ted Nugent riffs, right, which I thought was kind of funny. And then I had another guy one time, I went there asking about a Gibson. This is back when I was really big on Gibsons. This is back, I call it the dark ages, because B.C. Rich wasn't making guitars, and a lot of the like LTD and Schecter, people like that really weren't, the guitars they had weren't very good. They were still in the junky phase. But I went into a Guitar Center asking about a Gibson SG, and this guy looked me straight in the eye and goes, well, Gibsons are junk, right? I mean, you'd be better off with a Fender. I literally had to turn my head from laughing at that dude. I'm like, come on, really, really? Yeah. Now, if he was to sit there and do like, again, I hate to, raise a little controversy here, but if he was to do like Scott Grove does, where he actually pulls a guitar out and says, okay, this was wrong with this guitar, and points out the bridge and all this. But this guy, I mean, it's like, well, Gibsons are overpriced. Well, yeah, but I mean, look how many people play Gibsons and have been playing them for a long time. Jimmy Page. I mean, he's been playing that same, Gibson Les Paul for like 40 something years. And so, yeah, I think this guy's kind of off in the weeds here a little bit. But I think that's the reason why there's so much hatred towards Guitar Center. Because you get a lot of people in there that really. How should I say this? They try to push things on people. Well, with the internet, all you people out there, all you YouTubers or whatever, all you gotta do is just go to the internet and look. And yeah, some of the stuff is tightly controlled, but a lot of times there's a lot of guys, a lot of people that do things that are real geared more towards they're doing it just for fun, and they're saying, well, I really like this pedal because. Like I like this Turbo Rat distortion because I can do this with it. And he'll actually physically show you how he's doing it, he or she or whatever. And that takes the control away from Guitar Center because they really can't push anything on it because you know what everything sounds like. And unfortunately, music has always been kind of funny because the new metal guys, they'll play certain 7-string guitars and they'll play certain brands that they'll kind of favor and certain amps they'll kind of favor, and then your blues guys, and on and on and on and on. And it's pretty rare to get a guy like myself that really kind of likes a little bit of everything, And but yeah, I think that ultimately that's what's going to kill a Guitar Center. I do think at some point it's probably going to it's going to go away, and it's really kind of sad because I mean Guitar Center was always the one that kind of outlasted everybody else. I mean But I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll be like Best Buy. I mean, everybody thought Best Buy was going to go under, and of course Best Buy came back, and Best Buy's actually doing pretty good now. So. But I remember back in the day when where I grew up at, they had a Mars Music, right? And I thought Mars Music was just amazing, but it didn't. It was all smoke and mirrors, and it didn't really last very long. It was really kind of sad. I remember that when they were closing the place down, I mean, I felt kind of bad about it, because that place was actually pretty awesome, I thought. But yeah, I think with the advent of like the internet and Amazon and stuff like that, I think it's really hard for Guitar Center, to they're going to have to redo what they're, rethink what they're doing, and I think ultimately they're probably going to have to just go back to doing, inexpensive guitars and accessories is going to be like their main thing. So, and occasionally maybe some pedals, Some of the big complaints I've always had about Guitar Center is that, and I've heard this from so many people, their staff doesn't really seem to be very knowledgeable about stuff, which I guess if you're really knowledgeable about it, you'd be working at a mom and pop store, you'd be on the road or something. So, but anyway, that's my thing about Guitar Center, and I thought I'd just kind of throw that in there as kind of a point to talk about. So, but anyway, I guess I'll catch you guys later.